Sir Peter Carew of Mohuns, Ottery, Luppitt, Devon, was an English adventurer, who served during the reign of Queen Elizabeth of England and took part in the Tudor conquest of Ireland. His biography was written by his friend the Devon historian John Hooker. He is to be distinguished from his first cousin and immediate heir Sir Peter Carew, who was killed at the Battle of Glenmalure in 1580. Early life and career. Carew was the third son of Sir William Carew, a Devonshire gentleman, and was born at Ottery, Mohun in the parish of Luppitt. He attended grammar school in Exeter, where he was a frequent truant, and at St Paul's School. By his own account, he once climbed a turret on Exeter city wall and threatened to jump if his master came after him. His father then had him led back to his house on a leash, like a dog, and for punishment coupled him to one of his hounds for a time. Carew was placed in the service of a French friend of his father's, but suffered demotion to muleteer and was only saved in February 1526, when a family relation, on his way to the siege of Pavia in the service of King Francis I of France, heard Carew's companions call the young man by name. On the way to the siege, the relative died and Carew took up with a marquis, who died in battle. Carew later served Philibert, Prince of Orange, after whose death he was sent by Orange's sister to King Henry VIII of England with letters in dispatch. The king noted his proficiency in riding and French and took him into service. In 1540, he travelled abroad with his cousin and visited Constantinople, Venice, Milan and Vienna, where his cousin died. He served in the war against France on land and at sea. In 1544, he led a company of foot apparelled in black at his own expense, with his brother George Carew, who was in command of the Mary Rose when she sank, and served as commander of the horse. For his service in the campaign he was knighted in 1545. Carew was Member of Parliament in 1545 for Tavistock, in 1547 for Dartmouth, in 1553 and 1559 for Devon, and in 1563 for Exeter. Having served as High Sheriff of Devon in 1547, Carew was reprimanded for the vigour of his response to the 1549 Prayer Book Rebellion, the rising in Devon and Cornwall occasioned by the issue of the Reformed Book of Common Prayer. In 1553, he proclaimed Queen Mary of England in the West. However, at the end of the year he conspired against her proposed marriage to Crown Prince Philip II of Spain. Unlike many of his co-conspirators, he managed to escape arrest, and fled into exile on the European mainland in January 1554. In May 1556 he was arrested in Flanders and returned to England in a fishing boat. He was held in the Tower of London until October 1556, his release being secured on payment of certain family debts due to the Crown. Under Elizabeth I, Carew was sent to settle a dispute between Lord Grey and the Earl of Norfolk, which had arisen while they were commanding an army against the French in Scotland at the Siege of Leith. When Norfolk was eventually convicted of treason in 1572, he found that Carew was his jailer, having been appointed Constable of the Tower, Ireland. In 1568, Carew embarked on his greatest adventure, when he laid claim to lands in the south of Ireland. He had sent ancient documents for examination by John Hooker, who became convinced, after travelling to Ireland, that the documents established Carew's hereditary entitlement to extensive properties in that country. Henry II of England had granted half the lordship of Cork to Robert Fitzstephen, and Hooker believed that Fitzstephen's daughter had married a Carew ancestor. Carew's claim existed by letter of the law contained in antique parchment under Crown seal. Carew obtained leave of the Queen to prosecute his claims and sailed for Ireland from Ilfracombe in August 1568. His first proceedings were against Christopher Cheevers for possession of the lordship of Maston in County Meath. Carew claimed he couldn't get a fair trial at common law before a jury and went instead before the Lord Deputy, Sir Henry Sidney, sitting in council, whereupon Cheevers agreed to a compromise of the claim. Then he secured a decree of Sidney and council for the barony of Idrone in County Carlow, which was then in the possession of the Kavanagh clan, and was appointed captain of Leland Castle in the centre of the barony. Carew's claim became complicated when it appeared to encroach upon the possession and authority of the Butler family, an Anglo-Norman dynasty with wide influence in Ireland, whose principal was Sir Thomas Butler, 10th Earl of Ormond. Butler's younger brother, Edmund, held the castle of Clogrennan a few miles north of Leland. It had been seized from the Kavanaghs by his father, and in protest at this encroachment, which he expected would extend to his own lands, he launched an attack on Carew, who retaliated by storming Clogrennan and seizing it with little difficulty. The land seizure caused great disquiet locally and eventually led to the Butler Wars, which contributed to a wider insurrection, the first of the Desmond rebellions. Carew fought an effective campaign against the Butlers, but their influence overwhelmed his efforts. Not content to pursue the acquisition of Irish lands by right of inheritance, he extended his ambitions with a scheme for plantation. In April 1569, the Privy Council at London approved in principle a proposal by him, along with Sir Warham St. Leger, Sir Humphrey Gilbert and Sir Richard Grenville, for a corporate settlement by confiscation of lands at Baltimore on the coast of the province of Munster, to be accomplished via legal proceedings, for the purpose of exposing defective titles, expelling rebels and introducing English colonists. Carew's solicitor, John Hooker, had by then become a prominent New English member in the Irish Parliament in Dublin. The ensuing First Desmond Rebellion saw the rebels under James Fitzmaurice Fitzgerald engaged in bloody conflict along the coast of Munster, besieging the city of Cork, amongst others, with the demand that all efforts at colonization cease. Both sides laid waste to the hinterland, and it was soon recognized that Carew had reached too far. The Earl of Ormond managed to bring his followers in from the rebellion against the Crown. After the Earl's return to court, the Queen decided to recall Carew to England. Carew returned to Ireland in 1574, having refused the Queen's request to retake his seat in Parliament. He found Lords Courcy and Barry Oge and the Mohuns willing to acknowledge his claims and agree tenancies with him. Once this part of his plans had been settled, he ordered a house to be prepared for him at Cork, but died of illness on the way on the 27th of November 1575, at Ross in County Waterford. Legacy. Carew was buried in Waterford Cathedral on the south side of the chancel. The cathedral was rebuilt in the 18th century, and nothing remains of his grave. There is, however, a mural monument to him in the south transept of Exeter Cathedral. His will was dated the 4th of July 1574, and was proved in February 1576. He had no issue, and his heirs were, in turn, his cousins Peter and George, afterwards 1st Earl of Totnes. Two portraits of him by Gerlach Flicker survive. One is in the Royal Collection and held at Hampton Court Palace, the other is in the Scottish National Gallery. Biographies. By Hooker. Carew's biography was written shortly after his death by his legal advisor and friend, John Hooker of Exeter in Devon. This is a remarkably early date for a life of a lay commoner, and the work is described by J. P. D. Cooper as a milestone in the English biographical genre. The manuscript is now Lambeth Palace Library MS 605 editions. It has been published in 3 different editions, by Phillips Maclean and by Brewer and Buller. Phillips' edition adheres to original spelling, whereas the other 2 editions modernize the spelling. However, Maclean's is generally regarded as the standard edition, and is widely cited by historians. Firstly, the Life of Sir Peter Carew, of Mohun Ottery, Co. Devon, edited by Sir Thomas Phillips, published in 1840 in Archaeologia, the Journal of the Society of Antiquaries of London. Secondly, with much supplementary material, edited by Sir John Maclean, in 1857, as The Life and Times of Sir Peter Carew. Thirdly, edited by J. S. Brewer and William Buller, in the Calendar of the Carew Manuscripts in 1867. By Wagner. There is a modern full-length biography of Carew by John Wagner. Bibliography. Bagwell, Richard. Ireland under the Tudors. London. 3 vols. Calendar of State Papers. Ireland. Brewer, J. S. Bullen, William eds. Calendar of the Carew Manuscripts, preserved in the Archiepiscopal Library at Lambeth, London. Longman and Amp Co. 6 vols. Canny, Nicholas. The Elizabethan Conquest of Ireland. Canny, Nicholas. Kingdom and Colony. Cooper, J.P.D. Carew, Sir Peter. Oxford Dictionary of National Biography. Oxford University Press. DOI 10.1093, Ref. ODNB 4634. Maclean, Sir John ed. The Life and Times of Sir Peter Carew, K.T. London. Bell and Amp. Daldy. O'Donovan, John ed. Annala Historieron, Annals of the Kingdom of Ireland by the Four Masters. Dublin. Hodges and Smith. Rose, A.L. Sir Peter Carew, Soldier of Fortune. Court and Country, Studies in Tudor Social History. Brighton, Harvester Press, pp. 102-35. ISBN 0-71081147-0. Sage, John. Luppitt, Parish, Church and People. ISBN 0-95394830-7. Wagner, John A. The Devon Gentleman, A Life of Sir Peter Carew. University of Hull Press. ISBN 0859586693. History of Parliament Biography of Carew, Sir Peter, of Mohuns Ottery, Devon.